Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's regular meeting of the Woburn City Council of February 18th, 2025. Just a reminder to everyone, tonight's meeting is being recorded for broadcast. Also, please silence your cell phones. If you can, please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Higgins, if you will call a roll, please.
Counsel Campbell.
Present.
Counsel Demers.
Present.
Counsel DeMambro.
Present.
Counsel Ferrullo.
Present.
Counsel Mercer Bruin.
Present.
Counsel Papalato.
Present.
Counsel Toro. Absent. Counsel Viola.
Present.
President Dillon.
Present.
Make a motion to dispense with the reading of the previous meeting's journal and approve. Second.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is an order that $766,841.49 be transferred from mayor's salary adjustment account to various union accounts.
Make a motion the matter be referred to the Committee on Finance. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is a proposed zoning amendment adding new section 36 entitled Protected Use Accessory Dwelling Units and adding 1A and 1B to section 5.1 of the Table of Use regulations related to accessory dwelling units.
Make a motion the matter be referred to a public hearing together and be referred to the Planning Board.
Second and on the motion.
Yes.
I just wanted to raise a couple of questions. I know we're going to committee, but,
It's going to
I'm
public
sorry,
hearing.
public
Yes,
hearing.
right.
I just have some concerns with what we've received. The state law requires that this be done in an R1 district, but what we have here lays it out in every district in the city. So I guess we'll get to the bottom of it in committee, but initially what I'm seeing here is quite alarming.
Okay. We'll get that to committee and get it squared away.
On the motion as well, please.
Again, it's going to public hearing and
Public hearing.
referred to the
So we
planning board
just want to
first.
make
Hearing
sure we
first.
follow procedure.
Yes, I agree with Councilor Mercer Bruin. For some reason, they're only saying in the law that it needs to go in R1, and yet it's going in all the areas in Woburn. So I'm not sure why we would do that.
And we'll
So
figure
we
that.
will definitely, hopefully, we will look into this, and that we'll take care of it.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
And there is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is a communication and order in support of the site readiness grant for a new Boston Street opportunity analysis. The communication dated February 12th, 2025 was received from His Honor the Mayor, Michael P. Concanon.
Make a motion that the communication be received and made part of the permanent record.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Mayor Concanon, how are you tonight?
Well, Mr. President, and you.
Very good, thank you, sir.
Good evening to you and members of the council. As noted in this communication, City of Woburn was successful in our efforts to secure a $115,000 grant from the state from Mass Development through their state site readiness program. We're going to use this money to hire a technical consultant to assist us in conducting a new Boston Street opportunity analysis, kind of like a mini master plan for the northeast section of the city. As a condition of receiving this grant, recipients must stipulate certain language, and that's what you have in front of you tonight. Essentially, because the city owns 7 small parcels of land in the study area, we would have to agree that if we do sell any of our 7 parcels, we would reimburse the state for prorated portion of the value of that land. So in a nutshell, we own 7 small parcels in the area, which represent 38% of the total land. If, for some reason, we sold every bit of land that we have in this area, we would have to reimburse the state about $15,000 of the $115,000 we're getting. So it is a condition of the grant that this council pass this language so that we can receive the grant. I don't know if you have any questions on that.
Any questions for Mayor Concanon? Counselor Demers.
Mr. Mayor, so does the grant have specific language that the city council would sign this measure, or would it be more prudent for the council to authorize the chief executive of the city to sign?
The very specific language is included in the order. Basically, the council has to adopt that order, the resolution in support of the site readiness grant. Very specific language in there, where the city council votes as follows.
Anyone else? Counselor Demers.
Mayor Cannon, I've taken, I took the liberty to get a map of those 7 parcels, just so I'm clear on, the land in question and the 7 parcels that are part of this. I don't have any issue with it as of yet. And I understand there is going to be a study down there, because I have talked to the director, the planning board director, and they, would like to formulate some sort of a master plan down there. And I'm okay with that. And I'm glad that my colleague did bring it up, because I was going to bring it up, that the city council will be involved in this if there should be any type of a land sale on these 7 parcels.
Yeah, just to be clear, this grant does not require any sale at all. This simply says, if the
Yes.
city at some point decides to sell our parcels of land that are part of this subject study area, we would have to reimburse prorated that portion of the grant we receive.
Understandable.
$15,000, if we sold every single piece of every single parcel.
Understood.
I think is unlikely.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Counselor Mercer Bruin.
I'm happy to support this evening, providing we get a copy, Mayor Concanon, of the language that the state said to you, their communication.
Yeah, that's in the order.
I would imagine did they send an email to us with that, with the outline of the resolution?
Yes, and
Yes.
it's part of your order tonight.
Okay, the email is from the state?
No, the order that's requested.
Oh, I see the order that's requested, right? It's outlined, it's 5 paragraphs, 6 paragraphs. I'm just, somewhere, you received a copy from the state of Massachusetts saying, if you get this grant, you will have to use this language.
Yes, correct.
That's what I'm looking for, at some point.
Sure.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Questions for Mayor Concanon?
Make a motion that the matter be referred to the Committee on Infrastructure and Public Lands.
Second.
The motion and the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is a petition for renewal of common carrier license for M&L Transit Systems, Inc., 60 Olympia Avenue.
Make a motion the matter be referred to the Committee on Public Safety and License.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is a petition for second-class motor vehicle sales license name change from Alex Auto and Repair to Alex Auto Brokers at 505 Main Street. A communication dated February 5th, 2025 was received from Alamayo Orga, 505 Main Street.
Make a motion that communication be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Make a motion the matter be referred to the Committee on Public Safety and License.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on agenda is a petition by City of Woburn for a special permit under Woburn zoning ordinance 5.1 subsection 79 for municipal use for the City Hall Annex at 6 Common Street.
Make a motion the matter be referred to a public hearing.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item is the City of Woburn for a special permit under Section 5.1 subsection 79 for municipal use to construct a bathroom building at the Spray Park area at 60 Green Street.
Same action. Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is the City of Woburn for a special permit under Woburn zoning ordinance Section 5.1 subsection 79 for municipal use for a fire station at 38 Central Street.
Make a motion the matter be referred to a public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That
On the motion,
passes.
if I could, please.
Pardon me?
Good, then we keep going.
He said on the motion.
Yes.
Just briefly, there's a time sensitivity to this as this moves through the process. to keep the fire station building online. So as we move forward, just with this particular instance, that we stay focused.
Very good. Thank you. A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Next item on the agenda is petition by Shell Z Glenbrook LLC for a special permit on section 5.1 subsection 56, section 7.3, section 9, and section 15 to build a addition to the management office and addition to the maintenance building, as well as work within the groundwater protection district and floodplain district at 200 Bedford Road.
Make a motion that the matter be referred to public hearing.
Second.
There is a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Next item on we have the agenda is under public hearings is N-Star Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, for grant application to install approximately 5 feet of conduit in Mishram Road for service to 300 Mishram Road. A communication dated February 12, 2025 was received from Jay Duran, the Superintendent of Public Works. Further, received dated February 12, 2025 was another amended version from Jay Duran, Public Works. In addition, there is a communication dated February 18, 2025, was received from Christopher Sylvia, 13 Bennett Street, to President Dillon regarding City Council public hearings 218.
Make a motion that the communications be received and made by the Department of Records.
Second.
The motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Petitioner is here.
How are you today?
Good.
Just state your name and address, please.
Donna McLaughlin, Eversource Energy, 101 Linwood Street in Somerville.
Thank you.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Okay. We request to install approximately 5 feet of conduit from pole to private property for Tesla charging stations.
Have you seen the correspondence from Superintendent Duran?
Yes.
Hi, Kelly Correa from Eversource. So I guess originally, the letter was written, it looked like we were going to be setting a new pole there. So I just want to clear, we are not setting a new pole. We're not replacing any poles. We're going to use the existing pole that's there. That was what Jay had amended his letter to say.
Questions? Councilor Demis.
So in DPW Superintendent's memo, there's certain conditions. Have you agreed to said conditions? Or?
We have not agreed. We actually do not agree. So basically, one of the conditions is that we replace concrete blocks on either side of the pole. We're only replace what we disturb. So certainly whatever we disturb, we will replace. But additional infrastructure that we don't touch in normal course of business, we wouldn't replace any of that.
Okay, and what about the reference to ADA compliance of the sidewalk?
The sidewalk will be restored to substantially the same condition it's in right now.
Okay.
And the sidewalk there, actually, where the pole is, rather than going straight behind the pole, the sidewalk like curves around a little bit, so that'll allow the ADA space there. We'll replace it the same way it is now.
All set?
I'm good for now.
Councilor Mercer Bruin.
Thank you, President Dillon. I'm going to ask the council not to approve this tonight. There's a question about whether or not we can even have this happen at the Woburn Mall. The City of Woburn building inspector issued a memo on January 3rd. Please be advised that your application has been denied for the following reasons, and this is the application for the charging stations. Please provide details of zoning relief and approved site plan for this use in a business neighborhood district. As an FYI, this property has received zoning relief in the past and would advise you to review all to see what may be needed. Second, provide certified plot and site plans that shows current and proposed structures with applicable setbacks, and also there was no PDF of plans provided to go with the application for which this is being planned for, what NSTAR is looking for tonight. So until we get to the bottom of some of those things, I would request that this tonight go to committee.
So, may I speak, please?
Yes.
So, and I understand, I wasn't aware of any of that. I do know that Tesla is, I believe, on the agenda for March 4th to come before you on some of their projects. If we could actually continue this petition to that date, we wouldn't have to reapply as if we had a denial, but that'll give them a chance to get all the information to you, speak their mind, and then we can have our public hearing after that fact. If it's denied at that point based on what they have, that's fine, but,
Sure, and through the chair, I wasn't suggesting that we deny it tonight.
Okay.
I was suggesting we put it off until we get the additional information that was requested from the building department, and I know we have our hearing coming up, but
Okay.
please, don't misunderstand me, I'm not saying we deny it, I'm just saying we don't have enough information tonight to act on it.
okay, fair enough.
All set?
Thank you, President Dillon.
Councilor Viola.
Thank you, President Dillon. To further on what Superintendent Duran said, he said that he'd like there to be a condition also to remain in perpetuity, that if a new pole is to go there, that you'd be putting it in the same spot so that there'd be no major environmental concerns. Is that something you'd agree to?
Yeah, because we already know there's no pole going in there. Our job was never written to have a new pole there. I believe originally Tesla's plan may have shown a new pole, and that's where the misunderstanding came from. But Tesla has since contacted Jay and said, yeah, we agree, there's no new pole. And again, we're not replacing the existing pole either, so non-issue.
Thank you.
Everyone's good?
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
If I may ask Councilman Stewart a question, does this matter need to go to committee, or would it be prudent just to continue it to the March 4th meeting and allow the DPW and the building commissioner to iron out the details?
I'm not sure they'll be ironed out by then, but I'm perfectly fine if the council's fine putting it on the March 4th agenda.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing until March 4th.
Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Stay here. We
Thank
have
you.
another one.
Actually, I
Next item on the agenda is NSTAR Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, for grant of location to install approximately 13 feet of conduit in Washington Street for service to 425 Washington Street. A communication dated February 12, 2025 was received from Jay Duran, Superintendent of Public Works, as well as a communication dated February 18, 2025 was received from Christopher Sylvia.
Make a motion the communication be received and made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Eversource Energy respectfully request to withdraw this petition. It's under DP, MassDOT jurisdiction. Our error. We apologize.
No problem. Is there a
Make a
motion?
motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here in the public who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one,
Make a motion to close the public hearing and allow a grant for leave without prejudice.
Second.
Second.
there is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is National Grid for grant of location to replace existing gas main of 650 feet with 940 feet of new plastic gas main from 315 to 323 New Boston Street. A communication dated February 13, 2025 was received from Diana Durkin Cuddy, requesting this to be continued.
Make a motion that the communication be received and made part of the permanent record.
Second. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
I don't believe she's coming tonight.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
Madam Clerk, in the request for continuance, was there a requested date, or was just alluding to the next
Communication
meeting?
you should have on your desk. I think it was next meeting, but hold on one second, I can take
My
it.
apologies, I haven't seen it. Got a fantastic filing system here.
Lindsay, do you want this one?
Next city council meeting.
Great, thank you. I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing to the regular meeting of the council on March 4th.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is Treetop Home LLC for special permit under section 7.3 to raise a pre-existing non-conforming four-family dwelling and rebuild a new four-story dwelling at 5 Bennett Street. A communication dated February 13, 2025 was received from Jay Duran, Superintendent of Public Works, as well as a communication dated 18, 2025 was received from Christopher Sylvia, 13 Bennett Street.
Make a motion communications are received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Attorney Giuliano, how are you
I'm
tonight?
very well, Mr. President. How are you?
Very good, thank you, sir.
Good, good. Thank you, everyone. Again, for the record, Attorney James Giuliano, Giuliano Law Group, 607 Main Street here in Woburn, on behalf of the applicant Treetop Home LLC. We had a productive committee meeting, I believe, last week, and week after, relating to a few items, majority of them being certain conditions, should this be approved. I think the council and my client, myself, have received correspondence from the DPW superintendent that we're reviewing currently. My engineer and the architect are reviewing all the comments and addressing those. So my goal is to probably keep this in committee if the council allows that to happen, and probably continue this realistically, so we're not coming back, or even April 1st, I think, the first meeting in April, just to be more proactive on this and be realistic with it. I think by the time we go back and forth with the superintendent and we go to a couple of committee meetings, I think we can probably hash this out by April rather than continuing again. So certainly we'll entertain any questions at this time the council does have, but we are working on a certain amount of items. I think right now we are at the point where we're working through items that superintendent did request that typically would be done at the permit process, but we are okay doing because we have to do them anyhow, so.
Thank you. Questions for Attorney Giuliano, anyone?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
Make a motion to continue the public hearing to the regular meeting of the city council on April
First.
1st. April Fool's Day.
Second.
Fool's Day. Don't fool me.
Don't make us a fool.
There
I'll
is-
fool you.
There's a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Next item on the agenda is to determine whether the property located at 4 Maywood Terrace is a nuisance in the terms described in Mass General Law, Chapter 139, Section 1. A communication dated February 18, 2025 was received from Deborah McLaughlin regarding 4 Maywood.
Make a motion that communication is received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
There is a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
It's Council Mercer Bruin's petition.
Pardon me?
I said it's Council Mercer Bruin's petition.
Yes, Councilor Boone.
Thank you, President Dillon. First of all, just so everyone knows, there was a communication received from the owner of 4 Maywood Terrace. She is home unwell with the flu. I'm sure we're all very sorry to hear that, and I know that we were all anxious to keep this moving along. But at the end of the day, when somebody's unwell, we would offer them a little grace. So I'm going to say tonight, we should continue this to our next hearing. I'm sure the neighbors will be disappointed about that, and I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, as somebody who works in the medical field, I can tell you that many, many, many people have the flu. But having said that, I think there are some neighbors that would like to speak tonight. If they did venture to come down in this cold weather, I'd like us to provide an opportunity for them to speak. And then I'll speak to some of the recent emails I've gotten as well.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second to open the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in this? Please step forward. Seeing no one?
Okay. So the council is aware I have received additional emails about not just the condition, but for lack of a better term, quite frankly, the shenanigans that are going on at that property. And at some point, we have to address that as well. Councilor Toyle and Councilor DeMambro said it best. When you are a landlord, you need to know what's going on your own property. And clearly, that is not the case with the landlord who owns this property. So as we're moving forward, I'm going to start putting all the ducks in a row to declare this property a nuisance if we don't get some action from the owner. I hate to do that, but at the end of the day, things haven't gotten better. The neighbors in this neighborhood feel terrorized. Nobody in my city, your city, our city, ever should have to feel that way. And we have a responsibility to make sure they don't, in collaboration with our police and our fire department and any other resources that we can reach out to, including the Massachusetts Housing Authority. Perhaps they should be made aware of some of the things that are happening as well. So I'll leave it at that until we meet again in March.
Thank you. Councilor DeMille.
No, I just want to commend Councilor Mercer Bruin on this work. It's tough having a nuisance in your ward. When I started on the council, that was one of my first actions on Church Street. And I think we've given the landlord a lot of leeway here to get some things done. So I think the extension due to the allowing for an illness, the rubber is meeting the road on the 4th. So I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing until March 4th.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Gustavino Realty LLC for proposed zoning amendment to add a new section of the Woburn zoning ordinance to include the Central Square Overlay District as well as 13 parcels of land into the Overlay District. And their communications one was dated February 12, 2025 from John Cashel, the Planning Director, as well as a communication dated February 18, 2025 was received from Christopher Sylvia, 13 Bennett Street.
Make a motion that communications are received and made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Attorney Tybee, how are you tonight?
Fine, thank you, Mr. President. For the record, Attorney Joseph Tabby, the law firm of Rubin and Rudman, 500 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn. This evening, we're going to present at your request at the Ordinance Committee meeting of last week a summary of the traffic report. In addition, we have submitted a preliminary report on school impact that you have before you. In addition, the planning board continued its public hearing to March 11th. As you know, this is the first step in the process. Council cannot act on the zoning amendment until it receives the planning board's recommendation. So we would ask at the conclusion of this hearing that the hearing be further continued to March 18th, which will be the first meeting after the planning board's recommendation. So this evening, I'd like to introduce Scott Thornton of Vanasson Associates, who will give you a summary of the traffic report as we discussed last week in committee. So, Scott?
Mr. President, before Mr. Thornton gets underway, I make a
Yes.
motion that we receive the documents and make part of permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Right, Mr. President, we would also like to submit copies of the traffic report.
Same action.
Can you
Second.
actually just... Okay, sorry. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of kindling.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. Scott Thornton with Vanessa Associates, here to present more detailed findings on our traffic study that was prepared for the overlay. I've got a few slides, go through some of our findings. This slide that you've seen previously to tonight shows the access to the project through a relocated Wyman Place down towards the bottom left of the screen. We're also showing the expansion of the Central Square Park and the removal of Lowell Street between Wilcox Circle and Main Street. Just to be clear, this is one potential circumstance, but not the only one that could occur. It's one scenario that we looked at, meaning the removal of Lowell Street in that section, modifications to the intersection of Eaton Ave and Wilcox Circle with Main Street, but it's not set in stone that this change would be made. So this slide shows the study area and the 8 intersections that we reviewed for the project or for the traffic study. These are locations that we scoped out with Jay Corey when we were initially looking at the impacts of the project. So you can see we went up to Middlesex Canal Park Drive on Main Street and went south to Mishawam Road. Also went out to Wynn Street and Wyman Street in Burlington, and then looked at a number of intersections in proximity to the project. So this slide shows some existing conditions of the intersection of Wilcox Circle, Eaton Ave, and Main Street. The picture on the left is the view from Wilcox Circle looking up the hill east towards Eaton Ave. The picture on the right is the view from Eaton Ave looking west. And you could see the offset nature of the intersection with not a real good alignment between the two side streets, which contributes to the delay that occurs on Wilcox Circle. Here's another slide of existing conditions. This is at the intersection of Wyman Place, Clinton Street, and Main Street. You can see this is also offset. Side streets are offset. They run independently from each other. It's not a very efficient situation for the traffic signal. The slide on the left shows the view from Clinton Avenue looking at the former fire station, number 3. And the picture on the right is Main Street looking south right at the entrance to Wyman Place. So this slide shows the potential reconfiguration of that last intersection. So what we're showing is that Wyman Place would be relocated opposite Clinton Street. This would allow the intersection to operate more efficiently. We're showing a rotary internal to the site, which includes a potential future driveway connection to Charles Gardner Lane. That's more of a placeholder right now. That's not something that's currently contemplated. But it is something that is an approximate location of where that connection would go if it in fact moves forward. This slide shows potential improvements to Wilcox Circle, Eaton Ave, and the Main Street improvements. As I mentioned before, this is not required for the project. If it's determined that Lowell Street between Wilcox Circle and Main Street is to be removed and closed, and the park would be expanded, then there's a need to provide some additional capacity for the right turn movement that's coming from Lowell Street to Main Street. So we're showing a right turn lane, exclusive right turn lane that would be widened, would be added to Wilcox Circle. So that roadway would be widened into the park. We're also showing a potential realignment of Eaton Ave, where it would be realigned to intersect closer to opposite Wilcox Circle. We're not showing that there would be any impacts beyond grading to the front of the Wyman School property, so that building would not be touched. We're also showing that we can squeeze in a left turn lane headed southbound on Main Street. And overall, some of these improvements, we're maintaining the parking on the right side in front of Jack's Variety. We're adding a sidewalk across the stub of Lowell Street. And that connection there's currently no crosswalk, and I think I mentioned before, it's somewhere between 34 and 130 feet of pavement that would need to be crossed. But again, this improvement is not necessary for the project. But if it's determined that Lowell Street should be removed, some improvements on the order of what are being shown here would be necessary. No presentation on traffic would be complete without trip generation. So what we looked at previously was the removal of the traffic associated with all of the 17 residential units that would be removed to construct the project. Turns out only 10 of those were occupied, so we adjusted those numbers downward to reflect the occupied units. The traffic study is based on 225 units, as this represents the upper limit of what is proposed. And, the existing trips are on the left, the proposed trips are on the right. The net change between what's currently generated out there and what's proposed would be between 80 and 85 peak hour trips. And, that's during 1 hour, somewhere in the range of 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, and 4 to 5 or 4:30 to 5:30 in the evening. We also looked at Place Lane for more of a reference point. It may have a different residential profile than what's proposed, but we thought that it has some value in that it's a large multifamily development down on Main Street, just down the road from the project. So people would be familiar with that type of traffic activity, and that's something to compare with the proposed project. In terms of the trip rates comparison between Place Lane and the ITE data that we use to generate trips for the proposed project, Place Lane generates 35% less traffic in the morning and 21% less traffic in the evening. But again, we're just presenting those for a sake of comparison or for a reference point. We use the ITE data in all the analysis and all the calculations related to trip impact for the project. This slide shows peak hour percentage increases for the morning and the evening time periods. And last time there was discussion about where these where these peak hour increases or where these traffic increases occur. This slide shows that north of Clinton Street on Main Street, we're looking at about a 3.8% increase during the morning and the evening time periods. On Main Street south of Clinton Street, it's between 2.6 and 2.7%. Further to the north, again, where traffic is generally evenly split, it's a little more weighted to the north, traffic going up to 128. So there's still that, even north of the Middlesex Canal Park Drive, we're holding on to 3 to 3.4% increases headed up that way. But in terms of the overall increases, we're looking at 80 to 85 trips. Half of those are entering, half of those are exiting. Main Street carries about 1,200 cars an hour. So it's a small increase due to this project. So we also ran the level of service analysis. You can see in general, with or without the project, fairly acceptable levels of service. Some locations where Lowell Street intersects Wyman Street, there's a little, there's an existing level of service F there. At the intersection of Wilcox, Eaton, and Main Street, it's a level of service D with or without the project. That assumes those improvements identified previously were not made. At the intersection of Wyman Place and Clinton Street with Main Street, if we keep the existing configuration, then that intersection operates at a F in the evening, but it improves remarkably to, I think, a level service C or level service D with the realignment of the intersection. So just to sum up, there have been a few presentations on this, so I won't go through all the details, but housing is proposed with the project, access through relocated Wyman Place. Modifications at the Wyman Place, Clinton Street, Main Street intersection have been identified that improve operations for motorists and pedestrians that are required for the project. The modifications at Wilcox Circle, Eaton Ave, and Main Street have also been identified, but those are not required to provide capacity for the project. The net new trips are about 1.5 trips per minute during the AM and PM peak hours, less throughout the other hours of the day. Place Lane generates traffic at a rate 21 to 35% lower than projections for the project, and the project does not change level of service at any locations except for the Wyman Place access, which again would be improved with the realignment of that intersection. So that's it. I know it's a lot to digest. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Councilor DeMamba.
Another traffic study. So, it's hard, I feel, to gauge a traffic study in the city of Woburn when we have two major highways running through it. 128, 93. And it seems like every single time there's a tie-up on those highways, everybody takes the ways and starts roaming through our city. I'm almost willing to bet a more accurate study for local traffic is on the weekends. I find that there's more traffic in and around, and I'm on School Street. And I think more local people are commuting through the city. Moms, dads, bringing kids here, there, shopping, doing this, that, the other thing, especially before a Patriots game. Geez, can't even get near Market Basket. So I think there's more local traffic on a weekend that is more pertinent, I think, to a traffic study, as opposed to during the week. Because again, during the week, there's so many variables. Traffic, if there's an accident, If your guys are out in the field for whatever reason, there can just be blinky lights on the side of the highway, a tow truck, and it can tie up traffic from here to Waltham. So I'd like to kind of see a more generalized weekend traffic study, if possible, in and around that area. Because again, I just feel that's more, I guess, more accurate for our local residents. Because again, you know, I've talked to the chief of police, and he's explained to me, during the week, we have anywhere from 250 to 300,000 cars that come through our city. So to try to judge that. As for apartment traffic, I have Woburn Heights, I have Westgate Apartments, I have Kimball Court. I can honestly say I don't see a lot of cars coming in or out of those areas. I just don't see it. I see maybe one, maybe two, and where Westgate's, you know, situated, you know, coming out onto Sylvan Road, you might have a tie-up, queued up of maybe two, maybe three cars, and that's pretty much a busy area. So in terms of overall traffic from these apartments, from what I'm seeing, in and out, there's not a rush in and there ain't a rush out that I can see with the three that I have. And again, these are pretty, you know, sizable complexes that I have up in North Woburn. So I think it'd be more pertinent to maybe look at maybe a weekend traffic or a weekend study to get a more accurate number in that area. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Demers.
So when I've been on the council for, I think, 5 years now, and we've had plenty of traffic studies that have come before us. And I've always wondered why it didn't branch out a little bit further from the locus of the project. And the reason why I ask that is because one of the concerns I've heard is, oh, now that this could cause more traffic on Main Street, some of our side streets and our neighborhood streets are going to be overwhelmed with people cutting through, especially Hart Street. So I saw that the intersection of Lowell and Wyman was considered. Was any traffic generated from this project considered on Hart Street?
No. Hart
Okay.
Street was not part of the study area.
And was there a methodology or a reasoning why that wasn't included?
So typically, we look at the Mass DOT guidelines for scoping a traffic study, where if a project has either a 5% increase or sends more than 50 peak hour trips through an intersection, it's a candidate for study. We only have that at the front door. And then from that point on, it's really just looking at locations that are closest to the driveways to get an idea of what the impacts would be. As we get further away from the driveway, those trips do disperse and you have less of an impact at any one location.
Because as a lifelong Woburn resident, I can tell you that I've traveled that Hart Street cut through to get to Central Square about 80% more times, and maybe 20% ever remember looking at the Winchester Savings Bank at the Kilby Street intersection. So I could see how the neighbors are concerned that way, because they see it every day on Hart Street.
Yep.
I've seen cars bombing down, and I'm probably guilty myself of being that cut-through guy. But it's there, and it's available. Would you say that the changes in the intersections and the recalibration of the timing of the intersections forward and back would alleviate some of the traffic concerns?
I think that the modifications to Wilcox Circle and Eaton Ave, I think that would, if you were able to let both side streets run together, that would get more cycles per hour, which would get more green time to those approaches. So it would improve things.
Because I do appreciate in the proposal, I do appreciate the inclusion of a turn lane
Yep.
on Main Street coming towards Central Square, a left-hand turn dedicated up into Eaton, because I know, any of the residents of the area could tell you, if somebody isn't paying attention to taking that left-hand turn, they'll be right in the middle of the road and the traffic's backed all the way up to the movies.
Yeah.
Where I live. So I think that's beneficial. I'm less and less married to the idea of removing Lowell Street. And the reason why I look at that is, one, I'm concerned about the queuing that could form all the way back past Hart Street, Wyman Street, and I've had neighbors reach out about that. I'm also concerned about the lack of parking, that would, because there are spots on that stretch of Lowell Street. So I think that might, especially if we're looking at ways of making Central Square more vibrant, looking at ways of what might happen with other properties there, including the storefronts. I think taking away that parking might actually hurt us in the long run in trying to attract a revibrant, business area there. This is more of an on-site question, so I don't want to get into the weeds there, but I'll skip that and hold on to that. But on the Boys Club entrance, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I have concerns that with the Clinton, Wyman Place, and Main Street intersection moving closer to that entrance, especially with Wyman Place being coming up now, or proposed to be coming up where the fire station was, was there any look at that with Charles Gardner Lane in terms of an impact, in terms of that intersection where the queuing or people trying to come out based on that new intersection and new timing would be impacted?
So the queue, whatever queue is there now would exist with that change. The volumes that we saw going in and out of Charles Gardner Lane, I'm sure at some times, maybe, in the 6 to 7, or sometimes they're higher than what we observed. But the intersection is not so close that we're expecting any greater impact than what's currently there.
Okay. That's all I have for now, Mr. President.
Anyone else?
If I could just follow up on your comment about Lowell Street, I think we're kind of agnostic on the issue. I think that being able to retain that parking is important, but yeah, I do agree. When you're replacing, it's not quite a free flow operation, but it's almost like a slip lane on Lowell Street. You're replacing that with a lane that's under signalized control. There's going to be some queuing
If
that
I
I
may
think would
just,
occur.
one more,
Yes.
Mr. President. I think actually looking at it and maybe teeing it off a little so that it forces the motorist to be able to view left and right.
That's a common
That
thing,
might
yeah.
actually be more of a safety increase to the area, because I know the turn you have to do is quite drastic, almost like coming off the Cloverleaf in North Woburn. So,
Right.
thank you, Mr. President.
You are welcome. Yes, Councilor Papalato.
Thank you. Just so I'm clear, there's 224 units, do I have that right?
We analyzed 225, yeah.
225, okay. So I have some concerns over the density of that, and why I say that is, the traffic is one piece of it. And some of the roads that other councilors mentioned, Hart Street and Lowell Street and other areas, Clinton Street and Eaton Ave, and I grew up in that area, those aren't big roads. If those are taking a big hit on extra traffic, I don't know if the width of those roads is gonna be able to handle the volume coming through there. So I'd be interested in understanding more about what's gonna happen to those roads with your traffic study. A couple other things are around school, fire, police, and I know there was some projections we talked about the other night, around what would be an estimate of the number of children that would be needing to go through the school system. And I think that's an important piece of this, because we're going through a lot with the school system right now, and different buildings, we're looking at options. So I think that will be a big piece of the puzzle to understand what would the increase be from a school standpoint. So those are my main concerns there, and I know you have some work to do still, so if you could just include that in your follow-ups, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. I think other people can speak to the density issue. As far as Clinton and Eaton Avenue go, we're not anticipating a lot of traffic, somewhere between 10 and 15 trips during the peak hours using those streets. But you're right. I mean, Clinton it's not a wide street.
Right, and that four-way stop sign that's right up there, I could just see a backup of traffic happening there.
That's fair.
Good, thank you. Councilor Mercer Bruin.
Thank you, President Dillon. Thank you, Scott, as always. And I know this isn't your thing, but I'm going to say it. It's too big. It's too dense, it's too big. Place Lane is 145 units. I'd like to see us cut it back to around 150 units. But again, I know that's not your thing. That's a conversation that we'll maybe have very soon. As we're talking about the traffic and timing changes, I would just want to caution my fellow counselors that if we're going to use timing changes in any kind of mitigation when it comes to plans such as these, we have to be very mindful to know exactly what signals we're talking about, because every single one of them has to be able to talk to each other. And if they don't, those timing changes are almost impossible. And replacing that equipment, we certainly don't want that to be on the nickel of the city of Woburn. It should be mitigated if it's possible to mitigate it. But we always make it sound very simple. It's one of the most, it's one of the most difficult things you can do. People think we flip the switch, and everybody is
exactly.
going to talk to each other. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think I commented on this before, and Councilor Demers brought it up again about the parking. We have to be very mindful to make sure this ordinance change includes rules about parking. Specifically, if there is going to be a pay-to-park option, we need to understand that. And I know it came up the last time, but I don't think we got a solid answer on it. Because I think this ordinance should say it's not allowed. Everybody has to have a parking spot, or we're going to be in trouble. So that's my other comment, and, well, I guess we'll get to the density at another point in time, but I know an awful lot of preliminary work has gone into this, but I want to remind everybody who has been looking at these plans, it is preliminary, and that's why we're having these public hearings, to hear from the public, to get their input on how this looks, too, for the character of the neighborhood. So, thank you to everyone who's put in all this time, but we'll keep talking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Good, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, that concludes what we intended to present tonight as we discussed last week at committee.
Very good. Thank you, Attorney Todd.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward and state your name and address. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. So Charlotte Irwin, 63 Mishawam, and the traffic is unbelievable. We've been hit coming out of our driveway frontward, someone coming down the hill on Mishawam Road. So to say that it won't impact Clinton, Eaton, Mishawam, it will. The traffic backs up in front of our house sometimes and we can't get out our driveway. So that's a consideration. State.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
Carol Nagel, Main Street, Woburn. I'm a little concerned about the overlay district. This council just passed a biomed overlay district just north of me. Went through this process, spent all the time with the meetings and the traffic studies and beautiful presentations and how well they were going to take care of us. So they got it voted in, and they got their overlay, and then sold the property. So now, what does Enviromed overlay mean for Home Depot? Or is it going to get sold again? So say we go through this whole thing. Instead of a special permit process, which it ordinarily would be, we're going with an overlay district. So now we have a central square overlay district. And then, say this petitioner, which the last petitioner at the showcase never even had his final special permit, was allowed to get out of the whole thing, didn't even do many of the things he was supposed to do for over 20 years, was allowed to get out of it. So say we do it again. This petitioner shows us these beautiful plans, shows us the traffic studies, how wonderful it's going to be for our neighborhood, and then decides to flip it. So he flips it. How do we know who's going to come in? Now they have an overlay that they can pretty much do whatever they want to do. And as far as traffic studies and light cycles and all of the rest, we all know what it's like. It's already bad. I've tried to change the light at the Wyman School from north to south, the delay, because you can get around the traffic in front of the old Wyman. I can't even get anyone to listen to that. So, you know, what are the chances? They talk about removing Wyman Street. What does that land go for in the city? We're just going to give it to someone? I don't understand a lot of the things that are being considered here. I think everyone needs to step back, take a deep breath, and maybe look at this. I think it should be maybe a special permit, if anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this? How are you tonight?
Good. Elizabeth Kavicki, 18 Clinton Street. I want to offer that Clinton Street is impossible almost for residents to back out of at many times of the day. At the beginning of the day, traffic, and the middle of the day at school get-out time, and later in the day, around 6 even, Clinton Street can be backed up, the whole entire street in both directions. And in the middle of the day between those congested times, we see speeding at ridiculous rates down Clinton Street. Adding 225 cars just around the corner or on a road that is a new extension of Clinton Street is, with Clinton Street being very narrow, and for example, right now with the snow, even more narrow, it's hard to believe that it will be something that can function as a thoroughfare. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this? Someone else?
Mr. President, before I make a motion to continue the public hearing, I just wanted to clarify one thing with regards to the process. So this is a overlay district to change the ordinance. Any project that would move forward at this site would require a special permit. So I just wanted to clarify because there was concerns. I heard this from multiple residents. I saw it on social media. I just wanted to belay some of those concerns because if this ordinance moves forward and Mr. Tachi files a special permit with us, we will be back for another litany of hearings to discuss any limitations, conditions, or provisions that this city council deems necessary to protect the residents of the area. So I just wanted to clarify that so we're all on the same page so that there's no confusion.
Thank you for
At that point, I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing to March 18th.
Second and on the motion?
Yes.
I'll withdraw my motion.
It was withdrawn the second too.
I'll withdraw the second, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that being said, why are we considering a central square overlay district? What's the reasoning as opposed to just a special permit?
Because, right,
Zoning.
through the president, if I may.
Please.
Because right now, the current zoning would not allow the current project to go in,
Why?
because the current
Because
zoning
of the
says that.
density.
Because right now, that district is zoned S1.
So that's why I'm saying maybe that's the way it should be.
And that, it's a totally valid opinion, Carol,
Okay.
and I appreciate where you're coming from.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
President.
Mercer. Yes, Councilor Mercer Bruin.
I just wanted to thank Councilor Demers for making that point, because I too saw some of the things that were out there. But at the end of the day, yes, we have a special permit process, but the work we do here on this ordinance is very, very important when we get to the next step, because if we don't get the densities right, it's very difficult for us to change it in that special permit process, or anything else we want in the ordinance, like parking or other things. So I know you all know that. I want to make sure that the public knows that's why we're spending a lot of time on this, because there's a lot of things that need to go into it now to protect us at the next step.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, please step forward, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Denise Wicker. I live at 663 Main Street. So we were at the planning board meeting last week, and the planning board brought up a bunch of things that I haven't heard mention of tonight. I guess I don't know when they get addressed. But things that really make this project sound, or this conversation, like it's the cart before the horse, and that there's questions about height restrictions and density, and like how many units and how much green space, and there's just all these questions, but everyone here is worried about the traffic. And, you know, we're going from 50 people to 500 people. So obviously the traffic's gonna change. We're on Clinton Street, or our driveway's on Clinton Street. So the thought of all those cars having a straightaway, and we all know, because we live in Woburn, that everyone cuts through 93, they get off Commerce Way, whatever, and they're gonna have a straight shot into their apartment building. So Clinton Street traffic is gonna be affected. But I guess my question is about the planning board, and I guess how you guys look at the questions that they put forth.
Sure. What happens here is the planning board will reconvene and go deeper into this and send their recommendations to us. So some of those questions that you're asking, we'll be able to dive into more once it's in front of us, once we have everything from the planning board. Anyone else? Yes.
Just to
Councilor
follow
Bill.
up, President Dillon, on what you said about that, the planning board does weigh in. The city council may or may not accept whatever decision they make. That is up to us, on behalf of you.
Very good. Yes, Catherine, step right up. Name and address, please, for the record.
Catherine Shaughnessy, 31 Scott Street. I live very close to this area, and I drive through it every single day. And I think I know we all know in Woburn that it's pretty difficult to get around the city of Woburn right now. So any more development is going to impact it, and we all know that. Mike, I have a question through the chair to any alderman, city councilor, excuse me. Do you have any idea how many apartments we have in the city of Woburn and what percentage of those apartments are subsidized?
President Dillon?
Yes,
Could I ask a clarifying question?
please.
When you say subsidized, do you
Section
mean meet affordable housing criteria, which that would, right? We are at our threshold for affordable housing. 40B would not apply currently in our city. At last count, we had 17, I thought, 100.
I think it's 13% out of
Oh,
our
13%,
our
yes.
available housing stock.
I was answering the question about units, and that would just be down on Commerce Way. But as you know, the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts just forced us to do more. Actually, 1,700 more. The total number before that, I think we put in 2,100 if you count what's going on over at Salem Street right now. That'll be at completion in the next 4 or 5 months. So yes, we have reached our threshold for subsidized housing, but understand that is a moving target. It's always a moving target. We meet our threshold now, but what we just passed down at the MBTA, or some of us passed.
3A.
The 3A,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So that level of condominiums, or they're not condominiums, they're apartments, that will move our threshold on 40B. So we won't stay at that number. So it's always, I mean, this is full disclosure here. It's always a moving target. But those are the pieces that get left out when we get some of these mandates from the state.
Yeah, I know. I personally, I don't like the state telling us how to run our city. I think that should be up to the people of Woburn. And 40B, and when 40B was on the ballot a few years back, Woburn voted against 40B. But we abide by it.
Not only did we abide by it, and I didn't mean to interrupt, we took the right measures to get us to where we needed to be for the responsible reasons, because we understand you need all kinds of housing, not just one kind. But I imagine you're asking that in terms of what we have in front of us here tonight, what the percentage will be that has to go towards our subsidized housing number. Is that part of your question?
I suspect we've exceeded it. That's just, my gut feeling with the state shoving down our throats 40B and 40R and the 3A. And Woburn, I think, has done more than their fair share of putting in affordable housing. And then again, what is affordable housing? What they're asking for, $3,000 is affordable housing. Who's that affordable for?
Agreed.
And so they have to get federal subsidies, and who knows how long those are going to be around. And then what happens when we have got a glut of apartments? I don't think Woburn needs any more apartments. I don't think you should approve this overlay district. I know that the Commonwealth doesn't like R1 zoning. They're telling people Cambridge just did away with theirs. But I think that should be up to the city of Woburn. And what is wrong with single-family homes where people can raise their children? And people who are raising their children in Woburn can afford to buy in Woburn. I think it's a shame, because these young people can't. We're not building the housing stock for starter homes or homes where people want to retire. They want to sell their big home, but where are they going to go? They have nowhere to go. So we're only building certain type of housing that benefits developers, quite frankly, from my standpoint. People are getting rich, and the quality of life in the city of Woburn is really going down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this matter? Just your name and address, please.
Carrie McGinnis, 10 Fisher Terrace. Just wanted to say I do agree with what was said before me, but also when I think of the traffic and when the man that presented the traffic study was talking about efficiency, I think of speed and how if things are going to be more efficient, cars will be able to go faster. And as a mom of 3 children who attend the Harold Wyman Elementary School, I just think of how much harder it's going to be for them to go take their bikes to Jack's Variety and things like that. So just want to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing until March 18th.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we have under motions, orders, and resolutions, a resolve requesting city engineer provide an update on the pedestrian crossing lights at Salem Street and Bow Street.
Yes, just briefly.
Yes.
We are making some improvements over at Salem and Bow, and I want to thank the mayor who was instrumental in assisting getting the mitigation funds down for our approval. But it is also important that we have an update from our city engineer or a representative, so we know exactly where we are with the projects. It's a great opportunity for the residents to get more information in a public setting, and provide feedback potentially after they see it on television, and also a way for us to be able to measure where we are in terms of progress. So that's why I asked for the resolve, along with Councilor Demers.
Yeah, I also joined with Councilor Mercer Bruin on this. I thank her for her leadership on it. It's kind of a kitty corner in my ward where I have Bow Street and then half of Beach. But this is an important measure to increase safety for pedestrians, especially in safe routes to school. I know that there's been some concern from residents across the city about a recent alteration of the traffic pattern, so I think having an ability for residents to come forward and opine about any future changes would be pivotal at this moment. So I'll make a motion that the matter be referred to the Committee on Infrastructure and Public Lands.
Second.
And on the motion, that the
Yes.
communication be sent, the communication about the engineering department attending be sent to them as well.
I'll add that as my, as well.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Make a motion.
Next item on the agenda we have is,
Go ahead.
resolve requesting city engineer provide an update regarding improvements to Holton Street and Green Street intersection.
So, if you don't mind, I'd like to speak on this.
Councilor Papalato.
We've done a lot of work with the engineering department, with the mayor's office, with DPW, with various groups within the city, and there is a plan in place to address some of these things. And they did take a tree down that, unfortunately, right after they took the tree down, there were 3 accidents there. There were 2 trucks that almost tipped over onto a Eversource box, and then there was a crash. So we're clearly not out of the woods here, but I do feel like we have a plan, but we need to make sure we're executing the plan. And I know one thing that happened is when we were going through the different items that we were going to address, one of them was to make the turn coming from Green to Holton Street, I guess it's Nashua Street there, wider. And then that got taken off the table because the thinking was that the tree that was removed is going to handle the sight lines and people would be able to see up Green Street when they're coming out of Nashua. So I need to get a call into Jay Corey to talk about this, because we took that off the table to actually widen that turn. And if that turn was widened, those 2 trucks that just fell on the Eversource pole probably wouldn't have. So I think we got to readdress that. But I think progress is made. We just need to keep moving, and we need to make sure that we do what we say we're going to do in a timely manner, because that is an intersection that warrants it.
Thank you. Councilor Mercer Bruin.
And I also sponsored this. I would like the city engineer, a representative from the engineering department, to come down and give us an update. We can talk about that piece of it as well. It's an opportunity, again, for the public to see the work that is happening. And also for us to get some metrics as to where we are and timeframes and so on and so forth. So I think there's already a motion on the floor, or if not, I will make a motion that the communication be sent to the engineering department or a representative of the engineering department who come down to the city council in March to give us an update on this project.
Second.
You want it to go to committee?
It can, and also go into the infrastructure committee.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Motion to...
President Dillon?
I'll withdraw.
Yes.
Just want to make one comment on that. I want to let you know that the new city engineer has started today. So Alex, I'm going to
Great.
butcher his last name,
Rozicki.
Rizicki, has started today, so you have a new city engineer.
Great. Looking forward to seeing him.
Thank you, Clerk Hayden.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 8:20.